What happened when a talk show host pushed Melania Trump too far? The answer left the world stunned. The camera moved across a buzzing live audience in Los Angeles, and the set was brightly lit, brimming with the unmistakable energy of a popular primetime talk show. At home, viewers were expecting the usual mix of humor and sharp political commentary. The host, Alex Brooks, a well-known liberal figure famous for grilling his guests, sat confidently, his polished grin framed by the studio lights. Tonight was meant to be just another typical show. But it wasn't, and Alex started, his voice laced with a touch of mischief. "We have a very special guest tonight, someone you'd never guess would step onto this stage." The crowd murmured, curiosity rippling through the room. Then, as if perfectly timed for maximum impact, Melania Trump appeared from backstage. Dressed in a sleek ivory suit, her posture radiated both elegance and strength. The audience gasped, taken aback by her unexpected arrival. Some clapped hesitantly, others exchanged confused glances. Even Alex seemed briefly caught off guard, but quickly masked it with his signature smirk. Melania walked toward the host's chair with calm, assured confidence. "Thank you for having me," she said, her accent soft but purposeful. The audience's reaction was a mix of intrigue and skepticism, setting the stage for what would become an unforgettable night. Everything was set, but no one, not even Alex, could predict what was about to unfold. The real fireworks began the moment the conversation turned personal. The interview started as expected, with Alex keeping his usual charm. He leaned back, crossing one leg over the other, offering Melania a polite smile. "So, Melania," he began, "it's been quite the journey for you since your time in the White House. What's life like now?" Without hesitation, Melania met his gaze. "Life is peaceful," she replied, her voice steady. "I focus on my family, my projects, and helping children through my initiatives." Alex nodded, though his eyes glimmered with a trace of mischief. He wasn't here to make it an easy conversation, and everyone in the audience could sense it. Still, Melania's calm demeanor seemed to throw him off, at least for a moment. The crowd listened closely as she talked about her work after leaving the White House, from supporting underprivileged children to advocating for mental health awareness. "Interesting," Alex said after a beat, "but let's be honest. Many people have criticized you for staying silent on controversial topics while you were First Lady. How do you respond to that?" The room seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see how she'd handle the tough question. Melania, however, stayed composed, her hands resting gently on her lap. "I believe actions speak louder than words," she said simply. "It's easy to talk, but much harder to actually make a difference. I focus on what I can do, not on what others expect me to say." A subtle shift in the atmosphere occurred. Alex leaned in slightly, his expression sharpening. It was clear he intended to push harder. But the tension really thickened when Alex brought up a topic no one expected her to address. Alex's smirk widened. As he tapped his pen against the armrest, Alex spoke. "Actions speak louder than words. Interesting philosophy, but don't you think some moments demand words, especially when the stakes are so high?" His tone had shifted, carrying a subtle edge, as if he were testing the waters before going deeper. Melania tilted her head slightly, her expression unreadable. "I believe everyone has their role," she replied calmly. "My role was to support my husband and our country, in my own way." Alex raised an eyebrow, probing further. "And supporting him meant staying silent, even when his actions or words caused division." A few gasps echoed through the audience. The question wasn't just bold, it was incendiary. Alex leaned back, folding his arms, clearly waiting for a defensive response. The room buzzed with anticipation, the tension almost tangible. But Melania didn't flinch. Instead, she allowed the silence to linger for a moment, her gaze unwavering. "Division has always existed," she said finally, her voice as calm as ever. "Blaming one person for it is easy, but it doesn't solve the problem. I choose to focus on unity, not blame." The audience murmured in response, a soft ripple through the room. Alex seemed momentarily caught off guard, but he quickly regrouped. "Fair point," he conceded. "But speaking of unity, there are rumors, controversies, things people want to hear from you directly. For example, your marriage." The room erupted in a collective gasp, and the atmosphere grew heavy as the line of questioning shifted into deeply personal territory. Melania's expression didn't change, but there was a flicker in her eyes, a spark that suggested she was ready for what was coming. What happened next turned the conversation into something no one could have expected. Alex leaned in, his voice lowering just enough to make the moment feel intimate, yet charged. "Let's address the elephant in the room, Melania. Many have questioned your choices, your silence during some of the most tumultuous times in recent history, and even your relationship with the former president. Are you here to set the record straight?" The audience leaned forward, some whispering among themselves. This was the moment they had all been waiting for, a confrontation that promised fireworks. Alex's smirk grew, sensing that he was about to corner his guest. But Melania didn't take the bait. Instead, she straightened, her posture calm but commanding. "I'm here to speak for myself," she said firmly, her accent carrying a subtle sharpness. "Not for rumors. Not for stories made by people who don't know me." Alex opened his mouth to interrupt, but Melania wasn't finished. Her voice gained momentum, slicing through the air like a razor. "Everyone has opinions," she continued, her words deliberate. "But opinions are not facts. I know who I am and what I stand for. The rest is just noise." The crowd fell silent, absorbing the weight of her words. Even Alex, the seasoned host known for his quick wit, seemed momentarily at a loss for how to respond. His smirk faltered, replaced by something that resembled genuine surprise. Melania's gaze swept across the audience. "It's easy to judge someone from the outside," she added. "It's harder to look inside yourself and ask why you feel the need to judge." The room erupted into applause, some rising to their feet. Alex, still recovering, attempted to regain control. "Well," he stammered, "that's, quite a perspective. But surely, you understand why people feel." Melania cut him off with a small, polite smile. "I understand more than you think," she said, as the applause grew louder. But Alex wasn't done yet, and his next move raised the stakes even higher. He leaned forward, his pen now forgotten in his hand. His voice sharpened, as if daring Melania to falter. "You know, Melania," he began, "there's something people have always been curious about. How do you reconcile your platform of unity and kindness with some of the more, let's say, controversial statements your husband made? Statements that many believe divided the nation." The room fell into an uneasy quiet. All eyes flickered between Alex and Melania. It was the kind of question designed to trap someone, to push them onto the defensive. The audience braced themselves, expecting either a deflection or an outburst. But Melania, ever composed, didn't miss a beat. She placed her hands gently on her lap, her expression calm yet firm. "People see what they want to see," she began. "My work has always been focused on helping children, promoting kindness, and showing respect. I cannot control what others say or do, but I can control how I act. And I choose kindness." Alex raised an eyebrow, clearly unimpressed by what he saw as a vague response. "But surely," he pressed, "there were moments when you could have spoken out, taken a stand." Melania's eyes narrowed just slightly, her voice cutting through his interruption. "Taking a stand is not always about shouting the loudest," she said. "Sometimes it's about staying true to your values, even when it's not popular." The audience broke into applause, some even cheering. Alex, momentarily stunned, seemed unsure how to proceed. But his hesitation was brief. He leaned back and offered a small laugh, as though to regain his footing. "Fair enough," he said. "But let's not ignore the fact that silence can also be seen as complicity." Melania tilted her head, her expression cool, but with a glint of something sharper. "And words without action can be seen as hypocrisy," she countered, her tone even but resolute. The room erupted, the energy now crackling with a mix of shock and admiration from the audience. Alex's face shifted, his confidence visibly wavering. This wasn't going as he had planned. But the moment that truly silenced the room was still to come. Alex adjusted his tie, clearly searching for a way to regain control of the conversation. The tension in the room thickened, every word now feeling as though it carried the weight of the world. Finally, he leaned forward and delivered the question that no one thought he would dare to ask. His tone was deliberately measured as he began, "Do you ever regret marrying Donald Trump?" A collective gasp rippled through the audience. Even the crew behind the cameras seemed stunned, their movements pausing momentarily. The question was not just bold, it was deeply personal. All eyes turned to Melania, waiting for her reaction. For a moment, she didn't respond. She sat still, her expression unreadable. The silence stretched long enough to make everyone uncomfortable, including Alex. Then she spoke, her voice calm but piercing. "Regret is for those who do not take responsibility for their choices," she said. "I know who I married. I know the life I chose, and I stand by it. Not because it's easy, but because it's mine." The audience erupted into applause, louder and more unified than before. Some people stood, clapping with admiration. Alex blinked, his composure cracking. For the first time that evening, Alex opened his mouth to speak, but Melania wasn't done. "We live in a world where it's easy to criticize from the sidelines," she continued, her tone unwavering. "But the truth is, you cannot understand someone's life unless you've lived it. And I do not owe anyone an explanation for my choices." The applause grew deafening as the crowd clearly sided with her. Alex leaned back in his chair, visibly humbled. His earlier bravado had vanished, nowhere to be seen. But what happened after the cameras stopped rolling was even more surprising. As the cameras cut to commercial, the studio audience buzzed with chatter, a mix of awe and disbelief. Melania hadn't just held her ground against Alex's relentless questioning. She had flipped the tables completely. Behind the scenes, the show's producers scrambled. Some typed furiously, others muttered into headsets about the segment's viral potential. Meanwhile, on stage, Alex leaned over to Melania. His earlier confidence had been replaced with something much more subdued. "I'll admit," he said with a half-smile, "I didn't expect you to handle that so gracefully." Melania regarded him with a polite smile. "I don't play games, Alex," she replied, her tone measured. "I speak the truth, and that is enough." Her comment hung in the air, catching Alex off guard. The once commanding host now seemed almost apologetic. "Fair enough," he muttered, offering a nod of respect. Backstage, staff members and guests whispered as Melania passed by. Her presence commanded attention. Some were eager to compliment her composure, others simply stunned by her ability to dominate the conversation without raising her voice. She thanked them graciously but didn't linger. As she exited the building, a crowd of reporters and photographers had already gathered outside. Questions flew from all directions. "Melania, do you think Alex went too far?" Were you prepared for this interview? Do you have anything else to say? She paused briefly, turning to face the flashing cameras. I said what needed to be said, she stated simply, nothing more. Without another word, she stepped into her car, leaving the crowd buzzing in her wake. By the next morning, her words had sparked a nationwide debate that no one could ignore. By dawn, clips of the interview spread like wildfire across social media. Hashtags like #MelaniaSpeaks and #Melania versus Alex were trending worldwide. People on both sides of the political spectrum chimed in, dissecting every word, every gesture, every nuance of the exchange. Cable news networks replayed the moment on a loop, with pundits arguing over whether Alex had crossed a line or if Melania's responses were a masterclass in grace under pressure. Some called her poised and unshakable. Others claimed she had sidestepped accountability. Regardless of opinion, one fact was undeniable. She had captivated the nation. The debates weren't confined to television. Coffee shop conversations, workplace discussions, and family dinner tables buzzed with questions about the boundaries of professionalism and personal respect in interviews. Could an interviewer truly seek the truth without overstepping? Was it fair to put someone's private life under such scrutiny? Amid the frenzy, Melania issued no further statements. She let her words from the interview speak for themselves, a decision that only fueled the public's fascination. Her silence wasn't evasive, but deliberate, a reminder that sometimes restraint can make the loudest impact. In the weeks that followed, Alex Brooks addressed the interview on his show, acknowledging that he may have underestimated his guest. "I'll say this," he told his audience. "Whether you agree with her or not, Melania Trump knows how to command a room." For many, the takeaway from the event wasn't just about Melania or Alex, but about the broader lesson of handling adversity with dignity. In an age of heated debates and viral soundbites, her composure became a rare example of rising above chaos. As the headlines faded, one thing remained clear. Moments like this remind us of the power of measured words, the strength of self-awareness, and the importance of standing firm in one's truth. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more thought-provoking stories. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind.